Okay, so with chapter 14, we are moving from just trend lines that follow along the specific dots that exist to a more mathematical approach of creating a trend line. So this lesson applies to both time data and general scatter plots. So you can see the examples here have prices instead of time, and you can see that on each axis there's multiple points. This is a traditional scatter plot. And so the thing with the scatter plots is that a regression line is just a straight line. You can mathematically make different lines, but a simple regression line is going to be a straight line, and that's not always going to be the best line to predict the data. And so a Loess curve or a spline are two different ways of automating creating a line that follows the curve. So what are alternatively, you could do very, very fancy math, and I'll leave it there. The book goes in further. You just know that there's other things you can do. You can do the math. But for our purposes, we can use these automated predictive type things. So you can see that the different types of predictions will produce very, very different lines in here. This part of it here has the closest similarities to each other because of the clustering here. So that part of the graph we're fairly sure about the curve basically, but this side of the stuff here where we have very few data points, it's going to cause the predictive curve to go in all sorts of different directions. So the lesson here is that you can have a lot more confidence in this area than this area, and how you deal with this is going to impact the lines themselves. I personally never heard of spline before. R uses Loess curves, and that's where I've seen elsewhere. So that's probably the more popular one, but other disciplines might vary given my psych background. So the purpose of these is to be more accurate than just the straight regression line, and also why add lines at all is to help us focus on the trend. Here we're generally not interested in every single specific point, especially if we're dealing with non-aggregated data. When we are dealing with aggregated data, you might be a little bit more interested in each point, but here the only times we're generally interested in the individual points is looking at those outliers. So here, this is very much just helping us to focus on the trends instead of the specific lines. Chapter does go into a lot of depth and technical stuff. Again, don't worry about all of that. It gets a little too complicated for the scope of this class.